Online lectures on scientific communication, brought to you by Professor Olga Ilchenko and Dr. Zinaida Shelkovnikova. Цикл онлайн-лекцій з наукової комунікації за освітньо-науковою програмою підготовки докторів філософії з освітнього складника «Іноземна мова професійного спрямування» для підготовки аспірантів до рівня загальноєвропейського стандарту володіння мовою С1. Лекції за модулями: загальнонародна мова та науковий дискурс, спільне і відмінне, читання наукового тексту, науково-академічне письмо, аудіювання та усне мовлення, монологічне, діалогічне. The language of instruction will be mostly English, with some Ukrainian whenever applicable. If you have any questions at all, or any comments of any kind, please email them at inglang@online.ua. The answers will be posted here. Ask great questions, enter to win a prize. Lecture 3. Науково-академічне письмо. The anatomy of research. Rule number 1. No plagiarism. Choose a doable and worthwhile topic. Relevant, preferably novel methodology, though time-tested approaches are fine too. Approximately 30% of your literature should involve recent resources. Always start with big names in your field. Include only reliable internet resources. No Wikipedia in serious research. How to know that you have a worthwhile topic? Once you've selected a topic, make sure you can agree with the following statements about your topic. You have something unique to say about this topic. You care about this topic to at least a level 6 on a scale of 1 to 10. You can find enough to write about this topic. Plentiful, reputable sources of information exist about this topic. First of all, consider theoretical foundations or theoretical framework of your research. What are the aims and or objectives of your research? What is your hypothesis or research question? What schools of thought are there in your field? What theories do you use? Why not others? Explain why. Identify key proponents and critics of such schools and theories. Explain their advantages and disadvantages, pluses and minuses. Clearly state your views, define concepts and terms. Identify your research novelty related to other works. Study relevant sources, books, articles, conference papers, databases. Professor Keshav suggests using academic search engines like Google Scholar, CiteSeerX. With keywords, you will be able to find 3 to 5 recent, highly cited papers in the area to start with. Think of them as bobbins, котушки ниток. Is there a knowledge gap? How does your research fit in? What would you do differently? What does Sherlock Holmes teach us about doing research? When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. We balance probabilities and choose the most likely. It is the scientific use of the imagination. One should always look for a possible alternative and provide against it. The little things are infinitely the most important. It is a capital mistake to theorize before you have all the evidence. It biases the judgment. Nothing clears up a case so much as stating it to another person. As a rule, the more bizarre a thing is, the less mysterious it proves to be. Literature reviews. Who is saying what, and what you think of it? What has already been written on the topic? Who the key authors are? What are the key terms and concepts? What are the main ideas, theories, hypotheses, and recent developments? What are their strengths and weaknesses? Start with recent, highly cited papers and key researchers in your field. Are there any gaps in literature? Add it to your list of references. Don't list and or quote all authors. Exclude clearly derivative works. Assess and evaluate your literature critically. Give your own critical, analytical account of the existing research on a particular topic. Critical analysis. What claims are made? Are there unsubstantiated claims? What evidence is used to support the arguments? Are the claims consistent with other articles? If not, in what way do the claims differ? Are the arguments clear and logical? Compare and contrast different writers' ideas, approaches, or opinions. Assess differing pieces of evidence. Which one appears to be stronger? Find the areas where different writers agree and disagree with each other, and come to your own conclusions. Highlight where a writer has failed to mention something important, or suggest where an improvement could be made. Identify reasons why a writer may have come to a particular conclusion. Avoiding plagiarism. Quote it right. Use reporting verbs such as the author says, states, writes, notes, shows, argues, claims, maintains, asserts, points out, illuminates, observes, explains, suggests, compares, indicates, agrees, disagrees, emphasizes, highlights, stresses. For example, recent research by Smith has illuminated, as Jones argues, the importance of this is stressed by Andrews and Johnson. This is emphasized by Black and Smith when they state that. Avoid phrases like "it was found that." By whom? The writer's voice and identity, as well as the voices and identities of other authors, should be clearly evident. It should be clear who said what. Avoid end of sentence and especially end of paragraph citations. Those are called by John Swales and Christine Figg hanging citations. Version 1. Johnson and Andrews, using an ABC technique, have shown that the general trend was relatively stable, but they indicated that this method was not applicable to all samples. Version 2. Plagiarism. Johnson and Andrews, using an ABC technique, have shown that the general trend was relatively stable. However, this method was not applicable to all samples. The difference between the two versions is obvious. The first step to avoiding plagiarism is to carefully document all your sources. If you quote someone's work directly, cite your source. If you put someone else's idea into your own words or paraphrase it, you still need to cite the author. Quote your primary sources from the most canonical editions. Use Cite This For Me. Cite This For Me citation generator. When speaking about passive and active voice in research setting and elsewhere, we have to make a choice from the editing perspective. The passive voice has been traditionally used in scientific writing, but in recent times there has been a shift from this tendency. Current trend is increasing preference for the active voice. Below, we suggest editing tips for applying in your writing, with several before and after examples. As can be seen from Table 7, Table 7 shows recently done research, recent research. It or is analyzed, we analyze. Your order will be delivered in 3 working days. We will deliver your order in 3 working days. The field of World Englishes was initiated, shaped, and defined by Braj-Kachru. Braj-Kachru initiated, shaped, and defined the field of World Englishes. Let's see what Professor Joshua Schimmel thinks about the passive voice in scientific discourse. It's a tool that weakens a single sentence, but in a way that can allow it to fit more snugly into a paragraph, strengthening the whole. One more important point is using the passive voice with the word pairs because of and due to. Though often mistakenly considered otherwise, they are not interchangeable. Due to has adjectival nature and can modify only nouns and pronouns, while because of is an adverb and therefore can modify verbs. Examples: his reward was due to hard work. He was rewarded because of hard work. Useful hint for choosing because of. He was rewarded could be a complete sentence, unlike his reward. One more example. Rutherford B. Hayes was nicknamed his fraudulency and Rutherford because of the highly contested and something stolen presidential election of 1876. With because of, we can use both active and passive voice. Cohesion devices, a word on active versus passive voice. One more time. Cohesion devices do matter in all of your writings, articles, books, conference papers, to name a few. Let's emphasize one important issue: cohesion and information flow. Kenneth D. Marr points out that in modern technical writing, we advise writers to use the direct, active voice and avoid the weak and indirect, passive voice. But is this always true? Marr gives the following example. Two sentences are 1. Active and 2. Passive. 1. Fluid injections in deep wells in which the downhole fluid pressure sufficiently reduces the effective frictional stress across a plane of weakness induce microseismicity. 2. Microseismicity is induced by fluid injections in deep wells when the injected fluid pressure sufficiently reduces the effective frictional stress across a plane of weakness. Some would automatically advise using the active voice, 1, here. Geophysicists are finding some astonishing new results about fracture and joint growth by studying microseismicity. Insert sentence 1 or 2. By reducing the frictional stress below in situ shear stress, we generate a local slip of dislocation that grows into a microseismic event. However, Kenneth Marr suggests that coherence dictates using 2, not 1, simply because in the last part of the first passage, microseismicity is some new information. If we use the active voice sentence, microseismicity is not mentioned until the end of the second sentence. This distance between introducing and discussing microseismicity makes the passage incoherent. Please watch this short YouTube video on cohesion. How to get the article accepted at American Anthropologist or anywhere, by Tom Bolstorff. Be professional. Avoid typographical and grammar errors, mixed fonts, strange formatting, etc. Link your data and your claims. Surprisingly often, authors present insufficient evidence for their claims. The data and argument of the manuscript are at cross purposes with each other. Avoid sweeping generalizations and other logical fallacies. For example, not enough evidence to support a theory. Use citations effectively. It is crucial to cite the relevant literature on the topic in the manuscript, but avoid long quotes. Stick with short ones. Structure the manuscript. The conclusion should not be too short. The subsections should be equal in length. Introduction should be linked to the subject of the paper. The thread of one's argument needs to be carried consistently throughout the manuscript. Academic writing. Key concerns: plagiarism, verbosity, too many words. The message is not clear. Make sure the audience understands exactly what you are arguing for or against, or what you are recommending. The terms are poorly defined. inadequate methods, poor titles and structuring of the manuscript, poor abstracts, poor literature reviews, too many or not enough details, data mismatch, ambiguity of claims, one-sided arguments. Arguments are weakened when their authors obscure the main point of the argument, do not include crucial evidence, oversimplify or complicate the issue, or don't anticipate counter-arguments. Please watch 2 short YouTube videos. Perfect abstracts. First impressions are always important. In the case of your research paper, it is the abstract that the reader gets to see first. An abstract is a concise summary of a larger work. An abstract is typically written in one paragraph of up to 500 words. Its purpose: help the readers quickly determine the purpose and content of the work. People love good abstracts. It's a great pleasure indeed to read a succinct, clear and short, well-structured and lucid, clearly expressed and easy to understand abstract. The traditional dichotomy of abstracts includes informative abstracts, brief summarizing of key information from every major section of the paper that states purpose, methods, scope, results, and conclusions, around 200-250 words, and descriptive abstracts, very short ones, stating no results or conclusions, 100 words or fewer. All abstracts should be concise enough, but not too concise. They should involve keywords and/or phrases, but they should contain no definitions of terms, no quotations, no extensive references to other works, and should not present new, not mentioned in the paper itself, or irrelevant information. Long gone are the days when abstracts fulfill just one major, purely informational mission. Now they indeed tell stories. Kenneth Marr addresses this issue in his paper Writing Abstracts: A Basic Approach. Your abstract should answer the following questions. What did you do? How did you do it? What did you learn that was not known before? This correlates with the 3 moves in abstracts, the so-called PMR, namely P. Purpose, M. Methodology, and R. Summarizing the findings. What is known in the field? Situating the research, setting the scene for current research. Optional. Presenting the research, stating the purpose of the study, research questions and hypotheses. What is the study about? Describing the methodology, the materials, subjects, variables, procedures, etc. How was the research done? Summarizing the findings, reporting the main findings of the study. What did the researcher find? What do the results mean? Discussing the research, interpreting the results and/or findings, and/or giving recommendations. In abstracts, some standard phrases are usually employed. For example, background. This paper sets out to explore. X is discussed in light of. The present paper addresses something from the perspective of something. Purpose. The aim of this paper is to determine something we compared. To achieve or to achieve this. Methods. We analyzed and/or measured. The analysis showed. State-of-the-art and/or modern methodology was employed, including but not limited to. Discussion and results. We discussed. It is argued that X is considered to be. We found that the results of the study demonstrate clear signs of. Emphasized here are. X or X's are also examined, explored, studied, approached, investigated, discovered, analyzed, determined, described, considered, presented, evaluated, discussed, shown, developed, performed, verified, compared. Conclusion. In conclusion, it can or it could be concluded that In the next few minutes, we'll have a look at a visual abstract, listen to two YouTube presenters talking about abstracts, and watch an example of a video abstract. Visual abstract. The anatomy of IMRED article. Traditional IMRED or experimental article has the following format: introduction, materials and methods, results and discussion. Current IMRED version looks more like this: BAF AIMRDCARB, which means brief abstract, forward, abstract, introduction, methods, results, discussion, conclusions, acknowledgements, references, biographies. Review articles survey and summarize previously published studies rather than report new experimental results. Introduction. CARS model by John Swales. CARS create a research space model of writing introductions. Move 1. Establishing a territory. Citations required. Move 2. Establishing a niche. Citations possible. Step 1a. Indicating a gap or counterclaiming. Step 1b. Adding to what is known. Step 2. Optional. Presenting possible justification. Move 3. Presenting the present work. Step 1. Obligatory. Announcing present research. Step 2. Optional. Presenting research questions or hypotheses. Step 3. Optional. Definitional clarifications. Step 4. Optional. Summarizing methods. Step 5. Probable in some fields. Announcing principal outcomes. Step 6. Probable in some fields. Stating the value of the present research. Step 7. Probable in some fields. Outlining the structure of the paper. Or in short, establishing a field, summarizing previous research, preparing for current research, gap indication, and introducing present research. Introduction. How to attract a reader's attention, after James Hartley. Opening with a quotation about the text, epigraph. Opening with a scenario or describing some event. Opening with a dramatic statistic. Opening with a question. Introduction. State your original contribution to what is known. Who are the most important authors and/or researchers? What are the most important concepts, theories, and schools of thought? What gaps exist in literature? How does your paper fill the gap? What is your research question or hypothesis? What do you hope to achieve? What is your paper outline and/or structure? Introduction. Some useful phrases. The central and/or core problem of is. Recently, there has been growing interest in. Few attempts have been made to. It is attracting considerable interest due to. The first investigations into. In their seminal paper on A and B, X reported, outlined, developed, mentioned, highlighted. Several recent studies have suggested that. However, these studies have not addressed the issue of. However, something is still poorly understood. However, something has received little attention. However, there is a still need for. Further work on this problem is, however, badly needed. Few researchers have addressed the issue, the problem of. There are few papers dealing with this subject. Moreover, no attention has been paid to. Previous work has only focused on. Previous research has been limited to. Most studies failed to address. In this article we The main focus of this article is the term acronym X means is defined as the aim of this research work study is to, the present paper aims to, at. This paper study addresses, outlines, presents, demonstrates anew. This paper argues that the paper is organized as follows. Methods, materials and methods. Why did you choose this particular approach over others? When, how, and from whom did you collect data? According to what criteria? Indicate sources and data size, as well as data collection procedure. Describe experimental procedures and data analysis procedures. Define terminology. Some useful phrases. The method used is as described by Z. We use the variation of Y's procedure. Specifically, in our procedure, this approach allows us to investigate results, report results and comment them, state general and specific findings, interpret results, compare results with previous studies, evaluate results. Some useful phrases. We showed that this is mostly due to, however, overall, the results of the study show that the data is broadly consistent with the major trends in the literature as to the attempted investigation proved to be a success. Our tentative data suggest that the theory holds. This solution improves, advances, enhances. Table 1, Figure 1 shows, compares, highlights, lists, details, proves, illustrates, indicates. Let's compare. The data indicates that our results would seem to indicate. We believe that this reflects the current situation. Discussion. Highlight significance of overall results, state general and specific results, contrast previous and present results, indicate limitations. Some useful phrases. This result shows, demonstrates, proves, highlights, stresses. In contrast to despite the fact that, we believe, although it can thus be reasonably assumed. Another possible explanation for this is we cannot rule out that X may have influenced Y. Presumably, we argue believe that. Note that it appears possible that, it seems likely that, on the other hand, X could be explained by. Another explanation could be no final decision between all these various alternatives is possible at present. The most likely explanation of the negative finding is, interestingly, importantly, unexpectedly, surprisingly, this finding was unexpected and suggests the study has a number of possible limitations. The results of this survey indicate a clear lack of. In contrast to some reports in the literature, there were conclusions, the mirror image of the introduction. What is your answer to a research question? Highlight the significance of general and specific results, make recommendations for further research, suggest theoretical and practical perspectives and directions for future research. Remind the reader of the research problem and purpose and how they were addressed. Briefly summarize what has been covered in the paper to make some kind of holistic assessment and/or judgment. Comment on the findings that failed to support or only partially support the hypothesis or research questions. Indicate limitations of the study. Outline the results and assess the value and/or relevance and/or implications of the key findings in light of existing studies. Make claims for new knowledge and/or contribution to knowledge, new research positioned against existing knowledge is the primary focus. Conclusions. Some useful phrases. In this paper, we have presented, described, the findings confirm, corroborate, validate. Our research suggests that our method, technique, procedure could be applied to. We could conclude that, we can conclude that, it could be concluded, the results are of practical relevance. We leave something for future work. Our future work will focus, concentrate on studying, enhancing further studies. Support for this research was provided by. The author would like to acknowledge the support from. The authors would like to thank. We thank Dr. X for. We also thank Professor Y for his ongoing collaboration with this research project. References. Are all sources listed in the reference list? Did you include recent literature? Only list sources you mention and or cite in your text. Do not include sources you read but did not cite and or mention. Refer to canonical editions of your primary sources. Follow appropriate style, e.g. APA. Refer to the latest edition of the style guide you are using to cite your references. An Open Letter to Authors Whose Native Language is Not English by Kenneth Marr. A credible scientific or engineering study follows the scientific method point by point. The steps in the scientific method are: statement of the problem, hypothesis as to the cause of the problem, experiments designed to test each hypothesis, predicted results of the experiments, observed results, conclusions from the results of the experiments. Similarly, a technical paper uses the scientific method as its foundation and backbone. Within the paper, each of the 6 items must be addressed clearly, concisely, and completely. If each is not properly discussed, the manuscript fails and will be rejected. The writer must understand what the reader needs. The structure of the prose becomes the structure of the scientific argument. Improving either one will improve the other. The burden of creating an understandable manuscript is not the reader's, but the writer's. In English, the order in which words and phrases appear within a sentence is critical. This ordering is called syntax. Poor or incorrect syntax is not a small flaw. It is a major problem that can totally obscure meaning. To readers, poor syntax equals poor science. One way to reduce problems with syntax is to keep sentences short. Shorter sentences have few words, so the chances of disorder are reduced. Try to keep sentences to a maximum of 10 to 15 words. Also, try to avoid using sentences with many prepositional phrases, that is, phrases with on, in, to, over, above, upon, etc. Another common pitfall is writing poor introductions. Many authors seem to feel that noting and discussing each of the 30-40 articles that they read is necessary. It's not. With regard to the scientific method, the introduction is where you state the problem and give some background directly applicable to both the problem and your solution. It is not the platform upon which you discuss any and every study, no matter how remotely related. Don't give information that can misdirect your readers. If you want to write about the many articles related to your work, write a review article. Another and similar problem for many authors is their failure to write an adequate conclusion. I have read many manuscripts that document 6 or more months of very hard work. Yet the conclusion is one short paragraph. How can that be? If you spent months working, you certainly learned more than just one paragraph. If not, is there value in your effort? Spend the time and mental energy needed to write a complete and useful conclusion. Remember, the conclusion tells the value of your work. If you want your work remembered, write a useful, valuable conclusion. The art and science of writing a publishable article. 6 keys to publishing a journal article. Well-written and easy to understand story. Well-supported, robust and reliable message and conclusions. Appropriate and robust methodology and data analysis. Clear explanation of how the article addresses existing knowledge gaps. Comprehensive list of up-to-date references. Message relevant to a relatively wide audience. Writing essays. Essay. Short structure. Introduction plus 2 or 3 body paragraphs plus conclusion. Before writing any essay, it is important to understand its task. Introduction. Thesis statement and/or claim. The introduction of your essay should be paraphrasing the question and mentioning what the essay is going to be about. Paraphrase the question well. Body paragraph 1. Mention your first point, give a brief explanation and supporting evidence and/or examples. Body paragraph 2. Mention your second point, give a brief explanation and supporting evidence and/or examples. Body paragraph 3. Counterclaim. Refute opposing claim. On the other hand, however. Conclusion. Restate your results. Always begin your conclusion paragraph with "to conclude" or "in conclusion," and then summarize what you have written in the essay in 1 or 2 sentences. When writing essays, read the task carefully. Avoid personal emotions and personal stories. Examples from your own experience mean describing things you've learned about, books, movies, etc., not stories from your life, unless the task specifically requires this. Do not use contractions, e.g. instead of I'm, use I am. Structure paragraphs. Use logical connectors. Start strong, finish strong. Charles Duchner. Argumentative essays writing blocks. Introduction. Start with a hook. A hook is a famous quote, but not a long one. A definition, a little known or striking fact, statistics, a rhetorical question, a joke, a statement which stresses the importance of the topic. Contradiction, someone else's opinion opposite of yours. Main sentence, thesis, topic, is the roadmap of the essay. Thesis statement is not a fact, it's the author's specific opinion. Provide background or context. Why is this important? Sentences should be logically connected. Body. Each paragraph has only one thesis statement, one point of view. Every paragraph sufficiently supports the thesis statement, explains why and how. The first paragraphs should tell us a pro on the one hand, and the second one a con on the other hand. The second paragraph should state something of greater significance, like more importantly. When stating pros and cons, state cons in a paragraph right before the conclusions. A brief definition may belong in the introduction, but a more detailed one belongs in the first paragraph after the introduction. Paragraph structure. Topic sentence, support sentences. General to specific to more specific statements, or specific to general, or known to unknown, or least important to most important. Each sentence should clearly relate to the one before it. Sentences in paragraphs should be logically connected. Mix short and long sentences. Avoid obscure, vague language. Avoid diverting from the topic. No digressions. Do not use phrases undermining author's credibility, like, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not an expert in. No repetition of ideas. Use synonyms to restate and rephrase ideas. Logical connectors, discourse markers, of succession, first, to start, first of all, to begin with, second, finally, forecasting statements. Now let's turn to take a look at, to state pros and cons, on the one hand, on the other hand, to show the result, therefore, thus, consequently, as a result, to show contrast with the previous idea. However, nevertheless, on the other hand, to give an example of the previous idea, for example, for instance, to illustrate, to add a more important idea, more importantly, what's more, to add another idea, in addition, furthermore, also, moreover, what's more, to emphasize an idea, in fact, in particular. Conclusion. Summarize thesis statement. Write effective closing statement. No new and detailed information. Sentences should be logically connected. Show importance of the topic. Show the significance of your findings. Paraphrase and summarize the main argument of the essay. The conclusion is a general statement. Make a final strong comment on the topic, wow statement. And with the significance of your point. Relate your conclusion to the hook sentences from the introduction. And with a prediction or a recommendation. Editing tips. Keep subject and predicate verb close together. Instead of the purpose of this paper is to address, write this paper aims to address or this paper addresses. Use more verbs instead of set phrases with verbs. Make use of, use. We made the analysis of, we analyzed. Are in agreement with, agree. Perform conversion, convert. Can result in reducing, can reduce. Is an illustration, illustrates. In this paper we describe, this paper describes. Use more gerunds, its current trend. The purpose is to improve and to expand, improving and expanding. Avoid double negation, not impossible, possible, not unless, only if. This is not to deny, to admit, to acknowledge, not without interest, with interest. Use active versus passive voice whenever possible. Recently done research, recent research. Will be equipped with, will have. As can be seen from Table 5 shows. At Z, X is manufactured. Z manufactures X. Is engaged in providing, provides. Is used to develop, develops. The approach that was used, the approach used. This volume that was edited by 2 professors contains 21 chapters that are divided into 5 roughly equal parts. This volume, edited by 2 professors, contains 21 chapters divided into 5 roughly equal parts. Mix active and passive voice. Some verbs can be used only in the active voice. Exist, happen, occur, rise, arise, fall, depend on, consist of, and result from. The passive voice is believed to create the so-called objectivity effect, to concentrate on the subject itself, especially in the language of science. The models were developed from scratch. Much has been written about various aspects related to standards and standardization. This technology is widely used nowadays, or this technology is being widely used nowadays. It can be concluded that the argument is valid. Passives can also be used to hide the agent for some reason, say the agent may be unknown and or redundant. Potatoes are grown in almost every country. English is spoken worldwide. Or someone to blame. The message was misinterpreted. Some things in the English language can be expressed only with the help of the passive voice, simply because there are cases when only passive voice will do, aka also known as She was born in December in 1987, 30 years ago. They got married last year. Everything which is not forbidden is allowed. To say nothing of made in, much spoken about. X was first discovered. I was invited to the conference party. It has long been known. Well done. I'm done. I'm ready. Are you done? Are you ready? Are we understood? Just get it done. Get more done in less time. It remains to be seen. What needs to be done? Much remains to be done. What's done cannot be undone. 404. This page was not found. Interestingly, in German, this very idea is expressed either via active or passive voice. Diese Seite existiert nicht. Seite nicht gefunden. Modern book reviews abound with emphatic recommendations containing passives. For example, could not put down. It must be read. Or, to convey a similar idea, with the so-called semi-passives like an unput-downable book. Here are several trendy words that employ semi-passive voice. Usability, a demonstrable product, an implementable idea, customizable content, a readable book, pre-loved or pre-owned second-hand, searchable, ungoogleable, more easily digestible. It's a doable task. We've put together this manageable list of suggestions. It's something that we all need to be loved when we are unlovable. Some authors suggest the notion of strategic editing when it comes to choosing active versus passive voice, as in this example of rejection letter. Although you were not selected for the position, although we filled the position for which you applied, the interview committee was impressed with your credentials and experience. Although we filled the position for which you applied, your credentials and experience impressed the committee. Rephrase complex grammar construction. That we need more time is obvious. We need more time. What I mean to say is that can result in reducing, can reduce. The images that represent information, the images representing information. There are many points in this paper. This paper has many points. For the solution of the problem, to solve the problem, or for solving the problem. Revise lexical bundles. Oftentimes, often. A duration of 3 days, 3 days. Small in size, small. Close proximity, proximity. The materials used, the materials. The results obtained, the results. Very important, important. Really very, really or very. Time period, time or period. As per usual, as usual. And result, result. Final outcome, outcome. In order to. For the purpose of, for. By means of, by. In the attempt to, attempting. In the event of, if. Has, have the ability to, can. By using, by or using. By using, with. A very large number of, numerous. From a different angle, differently. In it, in turn. Both and. In turn, both and. Have fun. I am not that kind of person. I am not the kind or type of person who tries to seem smart. Use ly openers. But what is more serious is the fact that, more seriously, if we take into account architecture, architecturally, in an alphabetical order, alphabetically, it is surprising, surprisingly. Eliminate empty phrases like as a matter of fact, a kind of, a sort of. Our suggested edit of the abstract written by Marianna Yakimenko. The concept of infographics has recently become a key in the sphere of visual communication and therefore requires both practical and theoretical understanding. We systematize the definition of infographics and analyze its main tasks in modern media. The main purpose of this phenomenon is improving the process of information perception to transmit a compact and visually attractive message. Infographics is a new method of information environment and functions as an independent genre of mass media. Conference lingo, more editing tips. Paper submissions are due, or better still, camera-ready paper submissions are due. Resolutions of the International Conference on. The lengths of the submitted materials, including abstracts, illustrations, and references, should be limited to, should be no more than 4 to 6 full pages. The conference enjoys leading IT and telecommunications companies' support to bring industry, businesses, and universities closer together. Translation services will be available upon request. The secrets of extraordinary presentations. Be enthusiastic and positive. Keep it simple, make it brief. Start strong, finish strong. Be creative. Make your statements more compact, your messages more understandable, your English more decipherable, communication more enjoyable. Mark Twain said, "If you want me to give you a 2-hour presentation, I'm ready today. If you want only a 5-minute speech, it will take me 2 weeks to prepare." Presentations should be like a miniskirt, short enough to retain the interest, but long enough to cover the subject. Celeste Headley. Timing. Lightning talk, 5 minutes maximum. Ignite talk, 5 minutes and 20 slides. Pecha kucha, 20 slides shown for 20 seconds each without pause, approximately 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Timing is everything. Conference trends. Transition from formal, standardized conference templates to more creative, less formal ones, and reshaping traditional forms in the light of changing professional communication practices. Secrets of reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Get the gist, the central idea, the essence, the point, stated or implied through the clues, keywords. Distinguish between fact and opinion, the point of view. Reading, writing, speaking, listening. Remember, keep subject and predicate verb close together. Minimize negation. Minimize passive voice. Avoid vagueness. Get straight to the point. Create a catchy title and or headline. And start strong, finish strong. Charles Yuckner. Remember, good writing is clear, persuasive, and a pleasure to read. It's what we demand from novels and newspapers when we read for enjoyment. In academic life, a good writing style will help you to communicate complex ideas and information to a readership whose judgment matters to you. Examiners, editors, and reviewers know that clear prose reflects clear thinking. They value both highly. Put simply, writing well can enhance your career. University of Cambridge Library staff. Thanks for being with us. Happy writing!